Let's review your translation questions for chapter 10. We have John 5:30. I didn't write the translation, didn't give you the verses, but all these were verses, and so I'll tell you what they are as we go through. So we have, I'll read it woodenly, and the judgment, the mine, is just. Now what you needed to recognize here is that this word, eme, is a adjective, possessive adjective. Here it is right here. You can see this is the chart of the first person singular possessive adjectives. And it's right here, the feminine nominative singular. Now, you might wonder, wait a minute, this is Jesus speaking, right? Why is it feminine? Well, it's functioning, it's an adjective. And we remember adjectival construction here, where the adjective modifies the main noun. And so it's feminine because judgment is feminine, and the adjective is describing what kind of judgment. It's my judgment here. So this is the attributive use of the adjective, the judgment, the mine. Now, you guys mostly got that right. This one didn't have my judgment in there at all, but otherwise you're pretty much hitting in the right place. It's important to keep in mind the difference between the first person genitive, which is also translated my. See that there? Emu, or it could be just mu, is translated my, of me, my. We learned that. And you'll have the exact same translation. If that the genitive was, the personal pronoun here was in the genitive, it could have been exactly the same. The judgments of me. But this is not the first person pronoun. It's rather an adjective. And so we have to use the adjective construction in order to make this sentence. And so it's that adjective is what you need to recognize. Everything else is pretty much straightforward. Okay, another sentence. John 1:34. And it says, this is the chosen one of God. What you need to know here is hutos. This is the demonstrative pronoun. Here's where we learn about that in your book. It's the near demonstrative, right? So there can be the far demonstrative and the near demonstrative. We'll look at the far one later. And this is the near one, hutos, nominative singular. So you guys basically got that. This is the chosen one from God. Now, hutos, as we will see, could be translated he. And we'll look at a passage that has to be translated he later. But he is not the first place you should go. Try this one, this, and see if that works first. If it doesn't work, then possibly try he. That's not illegitimate, but it's not the first place you want to go, because you want to try to capture that demonstrative sense. This. Okay. This one ended up being a little bit more tricky than I realized. I really just wanted to get you to see that this is hutoi. So this is the same word, but now it is in the plural. It's tricky because this construction here relies upon a certain use of the article here that you haven't quite learned. You have to supply something after the article in order for this to make sense. But what it says here is, these are, and these are and you have to supply the ones, which points back in this section to the seeds. This is the parable of the sower. These are the ones, the seeds, and you have to also supply the verb, that fell by the road. Then skip the next verse. And these are sorry, I forgot something. Likewise, this needs to be pulled off to the front. Likewise, also, these are the ones upon the rocky ground. So a few more things there to get. Eventually, we will learn the use of the article here, and the Greek article is fascinating, and the subject of needs to be subject of a lot of study because it really helps illuminate what's going on in Greek. It's very, very different than the English article in many ways, and I think learning that the uses of the Greek article really helped Greek open up a little bit for me. So, but that's later to come. What I really wanted you to recognize is simply that this is hutos, but it's plural hutoi, and that is these. And that's basically what you guys had. You didn't quite get that likewise should be pulled up front, so you put similar. That's okay, but we're getting the idea. There's a couple things I didn't teach you yet in here either, but that's basically this. This is third person plural, and they said, "You are a disciple." So you are a disciple of that one, but we are disciples of Moses. And this is the far demonstrative. Just put a D there, I don't remember right out. This is the far demonstrative, probably used in a bit of pejorative sense. That one over there, not the one who is near to us. That's Moses who we have. You have that one. We have Moses. Note also that the pronouns are used for emphasis. You don't need you because this is the second person form of me, so it's contained there. This is the first person plural form of me, so you don't need hemes. Su and hemes are added for emphasize. You are a disciple of that one. We are disciples of Moses. And that's kind of what you guys said, except you didn't quite get the initially they said, but that is okay because we didn't learn that yet. And here I just remember to look at the use of the demonstratives, make sure you understand the difference between the near one and the far one. They are not spatial relationships, although they sometimes can be, right? If you're sitting at a desk and there's a pen near you and a pen far away from you, you'll say, can I have this pen? If it's far away, you'll say, can I have that pen? So they could be construed as spatial relationships, but that's the technicality. Normally they're not. It's what is uppermost in the speaker's mind, near or more, or the more remote conception, far. That's why in the sentence, you are disciples of that one is the far, is the more pejorative sense. I also wanted to give you again, just to remind you, the chart for me. So this is me, that's first person singular, that's I am, you are, he, she, or it is, we are, you all are, they are. So we saw both this one and this one in our sentence. Make sure you know that chart. Okay, so this is Mark 15:39. This is the centurion when he sees the way Christ died, and he says, truly, this man was Son of God. Now, this hutos, that is familiar to us. We've already seen this in a couple of sentences. And but what we have here is this man. And hutos here is functioning adjectively. This function as an adjective. This something. But if we realize it's functioning adjectively, that translation, this man was Son of God, isn't what we would expect, because if we think about what we know about how an adjective works, there's the attributive and the predicative use, right? Is this a attributive or a predicative construction? It's a predicative construction. And so you would if it's a predicative construction, you would translate it with a verb of being supplied, with is supplied. So look here, a predicative construction. Here, this is back from a while ago. We learned this. And this is the first predicative construction, which is what that sentence was. Hagios ha theos. God is holy. So why don't we translate it kind of awkwardly? The man is this, right? That's a predicative construction. And this is an adjectival use of hutos. Well, we don't, because hutos doesn't have a predicative construction. It doesn't work that way. We have this nice paragraph in your book right here, demonstratives as adjectives. A demonstrative can also be used as an adjective. That is, this, that, X, right? That man, this man. That's what we saw here in our sentence. It will be in the predicative position to the noun that it modifies. That is, there will not be an article in front of it, which is exactly what we see, right? No article. Where's the article? No article is right here, where you would expect an article. But there is no article in front of it. But do not supply a verb. That is, do not say, the man is this. Say, this man. Both ha anthropos hutos and hutos ha anthropos means this man. Okay? So recognize that demonstratives can function as adjectives, but don't try to turn them into the predicative use of the adjective. They just don't do that. Okay, John 1:2. He was in beginning with God. This is a case where we want to translate hutos as he. That's not our first option, but in the context, clearly we're talking about a person. In the beginning was the Word was with God. He was in the beginning with God. That's basically what you had here. And notice that in your chart here, he is one of the options for autos. Okay, here is, this is John 20, I think that's 13. This is when Mary goes to the tomb and she sees the angels. And they said to her, "Woman, why are you crying?" So what I want you to see here is that this far demonstrative is translated as they. Why do they use a far demonstrative? I don't know, but maybe John wants to communicate something about those angels and to get some distance between Mary and the angels. Those angels said to her, "Woman, why are you crying?" Okay, this one ended up being a bit more tricky than I had intended it to be. It is the reflexive use of the reflexive pronoun here that's translated. Well, technically, this word would be translated himself. Or itself, actually, it's neuter. I was expecting it to be different, but we'll try to make sense of it. I'll tell you what it says. So, children, guard yourself or keep yourself from idols. Last verse in 1 John. And technically, so this is the neuter accusative, and accusative plural. We translate it yourself, but it's actually not, if you look at your chart, it's not Here's your chart. It's not a second person, which would be yourself. It's really a third person. I think what's going on here are two things. The neuters sometimes end up with a different nuance, but also he's talking about children here. So, clearly it is a command. It is you. You keep yourself. This is a second person. But he's also referring to children. So I think that put together, children, you keep themselves from idols. Themselves doesn't work. In English, we need to translate that into yourself because that's clearly the sense of what's going on. Okay, here's another sentence, John 6:9. Here is a child who has 5 loaves. So we're feeding the 5,000 here. And the disciples are like, look, here is a child who has 5 loaves. Now what we have is a relative pronoun with a relative phrase. The relative pronoun, has, is translated who, and it refers back to the child. Here is a child, and then that's a complete sentence. Here is child. Here is a child. You could put a period there, but it doesn't have a period. We have a relative phrase that qualifies and explains the child. And has is, that's nominative singular. It's nominative because it's functioning as the nominative in this relative phrase. It's the subject of this relative phrase. Who has 5 loaves? So, who is the one who has 5 loaves? Who has 5 loaves? This is the subject of those 5 loaves that refers back to the child. And we didn't do so well. Some of you got it, but we really need a relative pronoun, who. Is little boy, they have 5 loaves of bread. We're getting there, but you need to recognize that has is a relative pronoun. Oh, by the way, you also need to realize, the breathing marks, when you have both the accent and the rough breathing mark, that's the signal of a relative pronoun. So we don't normally pay attention to the accents in this class, but with the relative pronoun, you do need to pay attention to that one because it'll be very helpful for you. And now we have a reciprocal pronoun in this one. Leilos. And the translation is, but through love, through here, because it's a genitive, this can mean through or because of. Here it means through because this is the genitive. But through love, serve one another. And one another here is the the reciprocal pronoun. And that's basically what you guys had. Here's the chart for the reciprocal pronouns. And the idea here is the speaker wants to refer to a relationship involving 2 parties equally in a give and take relationship. One another. Lots of one another passages in Scripture. Okay, and we're getting towards the end. This might be the last one. Jesus says, peace, my, this is again that adjectival pronoun here. My peace I give to you, which is basically what you guys had. Remember, it's a possessive, not pronoun. It's not a pronoun. It's a possessive adjective. My peace I give to you. So, okay, so that's it. I hope this is helpful, and please give me feedback. You guys did well in your translation. I will give you the translation assignment that will be due on Thursday morning, and I will create another one of these to go over that translation assignment. So keep going. Remember that you have to read the textbook well and carefully. Instead of the textbook supplementing the lectures, now the lectures are going to supplement the textbook. I'm really depending upon you to read the material in the textbook and try your best to understand it, and then demonstrate your understanding in the translation, and then I will help correct and guide you in the way that you need to go. Okay, good work, and look forward to talking to you soon.